Today, we're taking 60 Kirby series characters and running them through the Squid Game. Let's see who makes it to the end.
Welcome to the Squid Game. We're excited for everyone to play.
Today's roster of contestants is as follows. Kirby, King DDD, Meta Knight, Bandana Waddle Dee, Waddle Doo, Bronto Burt, Broom Hatter, Poppy Bros Jr., Sir Kibble, Gordo, Wispy Woods, Kracko, Mr. Frosty, Nightmare Wizard, Rick the Hamster, Kind the Fish, Koo the Owl, Dark Matter Swordsman, Knuckle Joe, Chef Kawasaki, Sir Mirror, Burning Leo, Marks, Pitch the Bird, Nago the Cat, Choo Choo the Octopus, I think, Gooey Ribbon, Adelaine, O2, Dark Meta Knight, Dark Mind, DeRoach, Spinny, Storo, Doc, Galactonite, Lore Starcutter, Landia, Magalore, Spinum, Clown Acrobat, Taranzia, Queen Sectonia, Robobot Armor, Susie, President Haltman, Francisca Flamberge, Zan Partisan, Highness, Elflin, Woofy, Cloraline, Leongar, Gormando, Silly Dillo, Morphonite, Sandran, and Mechamech.
The following are the ground rules in this Squid Game. Number 1, no outside allies or sidekicks. 2, no outside weapons, with the sole exception of any equipment needed to survive. Number 3, no magic. 4, natural abilities are allowed. The first game is red light, green light. You may move forward when it shouts green light. Stop when it shouts red light. If your movement is detected afterwards, you will be eliminated.
Speed, composure, and general athletic ability are the most important skills in this round. So with that, let's get to the characters who pass with flying color. Meta Knight, Galactonite, and Morphonite are all known for their incredible speed, so they'll get through this round easily. Spinny is another character who specializes in speed, which pretty much extends to the rest of the Squeak Squad, albeit to varying degrees. Since I'm sure some of you are wondering why we included the lore Starcutter in this running, both Megalore and the pause menu lore suggest that the lore has a mind of its own, even helping save Kirby and the gang at the end of Return to Dreamland. Combined with being a powerful ship capable of traveling dimensions, the lore and its riders passed the first round easily. The same goes for anyone fast and agile enough to challenge Kirby to a legitimate fight. Since, let's be real, we all know Kirby is easily passing any round that just relies on physical prowess, so of course that means that King DDD is in good shape. DDD has been steadily working to reach Kirby's strength level throughout the series. He may never beat Kirby, but he gets stronger every game, and his ability to keep up with Kirby, whether competing or cooperating, means a surefire win. Finally, let's talk about some surprising winners. Wispy Woods can apparently jump out of the ground and make pretty huge leaps when he needs to. In Dreamland 3, he even starts chasing Kirby while possessed by dark matter. Similar to Wispy, Kracko's inexplicable hatred of Kirby carries him through this round, much like Ribbon does for Adeline, though in a more literal sense and without all the hatred. Kine is definitely out of his comfort zone for obvious reasons, but we think the other animal buddies could help him out. Even if not, he's actually capable of moving on land, even if he just chooses not to in Star Allies. Similarly, Silly Dillo might be, well, silly, but he's an ally to the Beast Pack and is intelligent enough to create art out of everyday objects, so we think he could survive this round. Gooey is also silly, but like in Dreamland 3, Kirby could just eat him if he starts causing a problem. I mean, he'll spit him out later. Now let's shout out some of the common enemies. Waddle Doo moves fairly slowly, but he's calm enough to not set off those alarms, and not too slow to the point where he can't pass. Spinum, the archer, hides in plain sight while attacking Kirby, and we think he'd manage to cross the finish line without creating much of an ordeal. But let's get to this round's eliminations, and to be totally honest, some of these characters should have known better than to enter the Squid Game. They probably got lured in by a really slick website landing page. That's the power of full stack development. And that's where today's sponsor, Lovable, comes in. They're here to develop your software no matter what your skill level is, because Lovable lets you build apps and websites by chatting with AI. And they've helped a lot of people build full stack software applications. In fact, Lovable was the fastest company ever to go from $1 million to $100 million in annual recurring revenue. And once you see how it works, it's easy to understand why the company is so successful. You simply describe what you need, and Lovable's AI assists in generating the core functionalities, whether it's front-end pages or back-end logic, or integrations with tools like Supabase. Check it out. You can transform your ideas and files into a fully functional app in minutes. and you have full control over it. You don't need to hand it over to a dev. You can go from just having an idea to a live product almost instantly. It's pretty crazy. Like anything, there is a learning curve, but now the whole development process is accessible to anyone. Lovable.dev is changing the game by democratizing app creation. With its AI-powered platform, anyone, regardless of coding experience, can build powerful, full-stack apps and websites using simple prompts. If you have a creative idea and you know exactly how you want your app or website to look and feel, but you lack the technical development skills, Lovable makes it easy to turn your ideas into reality without having to learn a single line of code. So give Lovable a try. Click the link in the description and use promo code UPBINGEYT20 to get a 20% discount on your first purchase of a pro plan. That's promo code UPBINGEYT20 to get a 20% discount on your first purchase of a pro plan. See for yourself how designing your own app doesn't have to be as difficult as you thought it would be. Thank you, Lovable, for sponsoring us today and for giving us the tools to build apps and to bring our ideas to life. But now we have to talk about the first game overs of the day. The first elimination is Burning Leo.
Player eliminated.
Whose flames would set off the motion detectors pretty quickly. This is an oddly common cause of eliminations in the red light green light round, and a very unfortunate one for certain fire users. Usually this would be the point where panic prone characters fall behind, but this is Kirby we're talking about. Dreamland gets targeted by demons, eco-terrorists, and whatever other villain of the week on a regular basis. So most players are fine, but there is one last elimination in this round. President Haltman. With nearly everyone else in the running, they have some allies at their disposal. Despite his carefree personality, Gooey has Kirby and his animal buddies to watch out for him. Highness, despite his instability, has his followers to protect him from harm, and he's improved a lot mentally since the events of Star Allies. Then there's Hartman, whose closest thing to an ally is Susie, and she disliked him enough to double-cross him to steal his invitation and sell it for profit. We doubt she'd be willing to protect an old man she perceived as having no respect for her, when the Squid Game was a much more profitable venture.
Player eliminated. 58 out of 60 players remain. Let's move on to the next game, Honeycomb. Players must cut out the shape from their cookies. Those who break their cookie or run out of time will be eliminated.
Patience, steady hands, and dexterity will come in handy here, as will general resourcefulness and creativity. Adeline may not be much good in physical challenges, but arts and crafts are her specialty. She can draw with precision at Mach speed. Not only is she safe, but so are Ribbon, the Roach, and Dark Meta Knight, each of whom were seen coloring with her at the end of Adeline's guest star mode in Star Allies. For characters who struggle with precision challenges like this, they might need to rely on the help of allies. Darkmind and O2 both have the ability to control other players to do their dirty work for them, so they'd probably just pick someone skillful like Spinum or even Adeline to use. Bandana Waddle Dee's spear fighting talent makes him a pretty strong contender here as well. And the same can be said for sword fighters, from the obvious Meta Knight to some of the lesser sung ones like Sectonia and Dark Matter Blade. While magic's not permitted here, characters with the ability to cast intricate spells with or without their hands could also come in handy here. Aguilar, Marks, and Taranza are all safe as a result. And finally, we think that Carol and Leon would make great leaders for the rest of the Beast Pack in the challenge. Goramondo's size and Silly Dillo's silliness would make this game a bit tougher for them, so if the need arises, their leaders could help out. Inversely, Bandana D could help King DDD resist the temptation to start eating his cookie before he's done. The big guy's gotta eat. Sadly, for some of Kirby's most persistent opponents, this is the end of the line for Gordo, Wispy Woods, and Krako. None of them have hands, which is already a pretty damning attribute in this game, but on top of that, they don't have many potential allies to help them out. Of course, bullets will just jump off Gordo, so it's not like this loss is too devastating for him.
Players eliminated.
Lastly, Broomhatter also falls in this round. His cleaning skills are commendable, but Broomhatter is very thorough, and insisted on sweeping up every last crumb that the other players dropped. This distraction would prove to be his downfall.
Player eliminated. 54 players remain. It's time for our next game, six-legged pentathlon. The rules are as follows. Players will split up into groups of 5, tie their legs together, and move in tandem around a track. Every 10 meters, one player will play a mini-game until it is completed, with each member playing once. The goal is to complete all games in the allotted time, repeating each one until it is complete.
So here are the mini games. Diaki, throw a paper tile at the ground to flip over another paper tile. Flying stone, throw a small stone at another small stone and knock it down. Gongi, a traditional game of Korean jacks. Spinning top, and Jeggi, kick a Jeggi in the air 5 times in a row, kinda like hacky sack. Balance, composure, and general gaming prowess are important characteristics for this game, but arguably most important is teamwork and the ability to put together a good team. This will be the point of the game where alliances and teams start to be formed, but like usual, there are plenty of predetermined alliances. Carol, Leon, Silly Dillo, Awufi, and Goromondo are all members of the Beast Pack with varying skill sets. They also have unwavering faith in their team captain, so they won't have much reason to be stressed out. The same goes for Kirby, King DDD, Meta Knight, and Bandana D, who have been working together consistently since Return to Dreamland. They also absolutely kill it in minigames, as we've seen in the Return to Dreamland remake. If they can play hot potato with bombs and frying pans, we think they can handle these games too. The Lore Starcutter is a pick the rest of the players are having a tough time getting used to, but Aguilar is atoning for his lack of loyalty in the past, so he isn't giving up on his noble steed here. Those moving ores could probably manage the Jeggi game pretty easily, a fact Aguilar would be crafty enough to exploit. Susie and Marks would likely see it as a good idea to team up with him for now. Susie because she sees his intellect, and Marks because he and Aguilar have been implied to be friends. And of course, we can't forget about the good old pure evil villains left in the running. Nightmare, O2, Dark Mind, Dark Matter Blade, and Dark Meta Knight aren't usually the type to play games, but if it means more influence in later rounds, so be it. Now, Kirby characters are generally great at teamwork, whether good guys or bad guys. So the eliminations this round really boil down to the characters least likely to find a team. Ronto Burt, Samir, Clown Acrobat, and Waddle Doo are the most likely losers, all things considered. Ronto Burt is basically just a wild animal. Samir usually relies on magic that's prohibited here. The Clown Acrobat would actually be surprisingly good in this round, but creeped the other players out way too much. And finally, the saddest elimination of the bunch here is Waddle Doo, whose gigantic eye just made him a bit too unsettling for most of the others to team up with. And the few that would team up with him, well, they'd already found their team by that point. Sorry, Waddle Doo. Maybe try having a cool bandana next time.
Players eliminated. 50 players remain. Our next game is Mingle. Here are the rules. Players will stand on a rotating platform in the center of a large circular room. At any given moment, a number will be called out, at which point players have 30 seconds to get into groups of said number and secure a room for themselves. Any player who does not find a room with the correct number of players will be eliminated.
Speed, composure, and ruthlessness are your best friends in this round. Which characters are able to make sure they get a room, and which ones would actually do what it took to go through with it? Kirby, King DDD, Meta Knight, and Waddle Dee would stop at nothing to make sure the whole gang was safe. If there was any need to split up, they'd find a way to grab a weaker player in the room with them. For instance, DDD would probably grab a stray Awufi, and Kirby might take the opportunity to catch up with Elflin. Forget bullying others into losing, these guys can bully others into winning. Susie and Marks, on the other hand, would do whatever it took to ensure their own survival, even if it meant pushing some weaker players to the side. While Aguilar is less cutthroat, he'd still do what he needed to make it to the next round, probably appealing to his friendship with Kirby at least once. And of course, the Animal Buddies' unwavering friendship brings them through this round without a hitch. Unfortunately for Aguilar's intergalactic steed, the Lore Starcutter has the energy spheres knocked out of its sails in this round. Simply put, it can't fit into the door.
Player, you have been eliminated.
It's not that Aguilar didn't feel bad about leaving it behind, but what else is he gonna do? On a similar note, O2, Dark Mind, and Nightmare Wizard are all massive final bosses. O2 and Dark Mind can brainwash people, sure, but that won't do anything to make them small enough to fit in one of these rooms.
Players eliminated.
As for Nightmare, we actually don't even know if he can possess people, but DDD wouldn't let him try. Smaller, craftier bosses like Galactonite, Morphonite, and Dark Meta Knight are more likely to survive this round. And of course, we have some noble sacrifices. While the other members of the Beast Pack could probably squeeze into a room, Goromondo and Leon are pretty close to that massive size that kept the other eliminations from passing in this round.
Players eliminated.
We think they'd both be willing to sacrifice themselves during that infamous 2 rounds so Carol could live on as the Beast Pack's new leader. Silly Dillo would also have a tight squeeze to make, but we think Elflin would be willing to help him out by rooming with him, so they'd be safe for now. just barely. Finally, alongside the big players, this round is where a lot of the smaller players fall. Spinum, Poppy Bros Jr., and Sandrin, sadly, aren't quite as durable as other regular enemies like Mech and Sir Kibble, so we feel they're more likely to be knocked away in the chaos. And sadly, it's also curtains for some of our heroes. Adeline is so physically fragile that being breathed on by Kirby is enough to send her tumbling, even when possessed by dark matter.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Ribbon wouldn't leave her behind, which tragically spells her doom as well.
Player, you have been eliminated.
As for Gooey, there's no way that he knows how to count. Honestly, he'd probably hinder anyone who tried to hinder him. He has a big heart, but it's unfortunately too big to leave room for a brain.
Player, you have been eliminated. 38 players remain. It's time for the next game, Hide and Seek. Players will be separated into two teams, Hiders Blue and Seekers Red. Seekers will be given a knife with the requirement of killing at least one hider within the time limit. Hiders will be given one of 3 keys, gaining access to various doors and hiding places throughout the arena. They must either find a 3-keyed exit before time is up, or simply stay alive for 30 minutes.
For this game, roles are selected randomly, and players have a few moments to swap teams if they choose, but only if 2 players mutually agree. With that said, here's how we think the teams would pan out. The hiders include Kirby, Bandana Waddle Dee, Rick, Kine, Ku, Chef Kawasaki, Pitch, Nago, Choo Choo Doc, Magalore, Taranza, Robobot Armor, Francisca, Highness, Elfalin, Awufi, Carol, and Silly Dilla. And our seekers for this game include King Dedede, Meta Knight, Sir Kibble, Mr. Frosty, Dark Matter Swordsman, Knuckle Joe, Marks, Dark Meta Knight, The Roach, Spinny, Storo, Galactonite, Landia, Queen Sectonia, Susie, Flamberge, Zan Partisan, Morpho Knight, and Mecha Mech. Hiders will want stealth on their side, but if they run into a Seeker, they'll either need the speed to outrun them or the strength to defend themselves. Seekers will need strength and speed for obvious reasons, but also the sheer brutality to kill their victim. Let's start with the Hiders who are not being found easily. Magalore is about as crafty as it gets. Even without magic, he's speedy and quick-witted, so we think he'd evade capture pretty easily. I mean, the guy survived the Kirby equivalent of hell. I think he can handle hide and seek, even if it is a bit lethal. Elfalin, Awufi, Kirby, and Bandana D could avoid capture by means of their natural talents and their small size, making them capable of hiding in smaller places many other players can't reach. Then we have the most skilled Seekers. Dark Matter Swordsman, Dark Meta Knight, Galactonite, and Morpho Knight are all powerful enough to make short work of pretty much any opponent they set their sights on, and ruthless enough to not hesitate. They're the only characters callous enough to go after the animal buddies, and with that, Nago, Kine, Pitch, and Choo Choo are unfortunately out.
Players eliminated.
While King Dedede was lucky enough to draw a hider, he swapped with Bandana Waddle Dee, who was way too terrified to be a seeker. This decision was in no way motivated by any fear King Dedede may or may not have of Queen Sectonia. In any case, he only narrowly passed this round. See, Susie played a pretty dirty trick. She also swapped cards with an ally, the Robobot Armor, but she only did it so she could shut it down and give herself an easy win. While the Robobot Armor is sentient, it could always be rebuilt, so Dedede had no qualms about whacking this Kirby-shaped robot, meaning that both it and Susie are down for the count.
Players eliminated.
That's for crumbling his castle and scaring his Waddle Dees. Unfortunately for poor, painfully loyal Taranza, Queen Sectonia was more successful in her deception. Corrupted by her vanity, she convinced Taranza to lay down his life so that the queen could live on. The poor guy simped a little too close to the sun.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Then we have Meta Knight. He'd want to give his opponent a fair fight, so we think he'd choose Carol, another hero with blade skills. Regrettably for Carol, Meta Knight would win this match no matter how even it was, but he would do so with respect and dignity.
Player, you have been eliminated.
The Squeaks decided to give the one hider card between them to Doc, the most physically weak of the crew. Unfortunately, despite their efforts, Marks would find Doc and wipe him out, whittling the Squeak squad down to 3.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Out of necessity, they'd pull a flank on Highness and Francisca, and without their magic, these experienced thieves would be able to win this 3v2 pretty easily.
Players eliminated.
Of course, only 2 could count these as a kill for themselves, so we think Storo would take 1 for the team.
Player eliminated.
He just seems like a big old softie, and also looks like one. Finally, Chef Kawasaki's cooking prowess only made him seem like more of a delightful treat to Mr. Frosty.
A big boy's gotta eat!
And Mr. Frosty is one of the more animalistic Kirby bosses out there, so we think he'd live by that eat or be eaten mantra more easily than most.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Now, we've gone over the hiders who would be successful, and that leaves Knuckle Joe, Flamberge, Zan Partizan, Sir Kibble, Landia, Mecha Mech, and the aforementioned Susie and Storo as the eliminated Seekers.
Players eliminated.
Due to failure to kill a hider, which is a shame because Flamberge's revenge arc would have been really cool.
19 players remain. It's time for the next game. Marbles. You will play the game of your choice with your partner. The player to take all 10 marbles wins. The loser will be eliminated.
Players pair up in teams of 2. However, it's later revealed that they'll be playing against each other, meaning your opponent is likely the person in the games closest to you. You can play a game of luck or a game of skill. You can play fair or you can play dirty. But one thing's for sure, whoever you're teamed up with is gonna have to die in order for you to live. With that said, let's look at the teams, excluding the majestic Queen Sectonia, who was too busy admiring herself to focus on the instructions. Lucky for her, that means she gets a free pass to the next round. First up is Kirby versus Bandana Waddle Dee, and there's no way this one gets a happy ending. Kirby and Bandana D are not only best friends, but both pure good heroes. They'd both be devastated to see the other one go, even if Kirby almost certainly has a ridiculous amount of 1-ups in stock for them. And the only way for one of them to not be stuck with extreme guilt is to play a nice, fun minigame with their marbles. We think that Kirby's unreasonable strength gives him the advantage here, along with more than enough motivation to get back to Dreamland and find some way to bring his buddy back. Rick versus Q is a similar case, with neither of them really having much reason to try and sabotage each other. Both of them are pretty cool-headed and capable of helping Kirby in various ways, so it really comes down to who would win a marble game. Whether luck-based or skill-based, we honestly feel like Q has this one. As much as we love Rick, Q's skill on both land and air gives him a wing up on his buddy.
Player eliminated.
And Rick's too chill to begrudge him on that. Megalore versus Marks is a matchup between a deceptive traitor who redeemed himself and a deceptive traitor who didn't. Honestly though, the fact that Marks doesn't have a redemption arc means that either one of them could reasonably trick the other without it being out of character. We think Aguilar wins due to the sheer proximity he had to Kirby and the gang before betraying them, implying a seriously impressive poker face under that little cat-eared robe of his.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Then there's King DDD versus Meta Knight. Another day, another best friend showdown. Both DDD and Meta Knight have a wide range of skills they've picked up over the decades of fighting with and against Kirby as rivals. There was only one way to play this game right, a classic marble-based minigame set. First was Marble Catcher, where they saw who could catch the most marbles. Then was Samurai Marble, in which they tested the reflexes to steal marbles from the table. It's fairly obvious who won each of these minigames, so the last one came down to a classic test of strength. Who could knock the biggest hole in the ground using just one marble? While Meta Knight has speed and precision on his side, it's hard to beat King DDD in terms of raw strength.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Elflin versus a Woofy. Yeah, regardless of the context, Elflin absolutely could not kill another life form, even directly after it tried to mercilessly kill him.
Player eliminated.
Silly Dillo versus Mr. Frosty. While Silly Dillo is quite silly, he's still more intelligent than Mr. Frosty, who's more like a wild animal acting solely on instinct.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Then there's Dark Meta Knight versus Dark Matter Swordsman, which comes down to which of them has more skill at dark deception. We're betting on Dark Meta Knight, because he's not only a type of Dark Matter Swordsman, he's a Dark Matter Swordsman who specializes in mirror-based illusions.
Player eliminated.
Then there's DeRoach versus Spinny, which is a simple one. While Spinny is speedy, we think he'd be willing to throw the game to let his boss live on. The Squeaks seem to have a lot of loyalty to each other after all.
Player, you have been eliminated.
And finally, we come to Galactonite versus Morphonite. Well, Galactonite, you won fair and square. Let's shake hands after this excellent victory on your part. Oh no, I can't believe you just happened to disintegrate. That's crazy.
Player, you have been eliminated. Only 10 players remain. It's time to move on to our penultimate game, Jump Rope. In this game, players must cross a dangerous bridge while making sure they aren't knocked off by a gigantic double Dutch-style jump rope. They best be careful, because the rope speeds up over time, and they only have 20 minutes to cross.
Unlike last stepping stones, there's no reliance on luck here, just sheer agility, speed, and composure. You'll need courage, balance, and good timing to get through this round. People with kind hearts can help weaker players across, but those with a more mischievous side could easily sabotage the game to help their own chances. But real quick, let's see who's still left in in the running: Kirby, Ku, Magalore, King Dedede, Awufi, Silly-Dillo, Dark Meta Knight, Deroach, Morpho Knight, and Queen Sectonia. Now, the thing about Kirby characters that makes this game a bit redundant is that they can usually fly. If they can't fly, they can almost certainly teleport or jump infinitely. The only ones who can't are Awufi and Silly-Dillo. But given Silly-Dillo's dancing skills and his determination to protect the only other Beast Pack player still in the running, even they're safe this round. But only for now.
10 players remain. It is now time for the final round. Prepare for our final game. Squid Game.
This game is designed for at least 4 players with at least 3 eliminations. Players press a button on each tower to begin the round, after which they will have a set amount of time to push at least one living player off the tower. Once a player is pushed off, the others may move to the next tower. However many players are left on the final circle-shaped tower when the clock runs out, after at least one player was eliminated, will be crowned the winner or winners of the Squid Game. The remaining players can either depend on diplomacy to decide which players to gang up on, or they can just jump into a full-on brawl and see how things turn out. We start with the square tower. Kirby, King Dedede, and Magalore have teamed up in the final round, determined to make it to the end so they can get back to Dreamland and find some way to revive their friends. Unfortunately, before they can even start planning this, Dark Meta Knight pulls out his trump card, his influence over Queen Sectonia. It's always been there, which is why Sectonia would naturally let her guard down, allowing the Dark Sword Fighter complete control over the host. Magalore, being the first to sense this, jumped in the way of Sectonia's attack, saving Dedede and Kirby from being sucker punched off the tower, but eliminating Magalore himself in the process.
Player eliminated.
Ku, Awufi, and Silly-Dillo were also caught in the chaos, resulting in a triple elimination.
Players eliminated.
Kirby and Dedede managed to fight back against Sectonia, but it wasn't until Morpho Knight dissolved Dark Meta Knight that peace was temporarily restored.
Player eliminated.
And the remaining 5 were able to move on to the next tower, the Triangle Tower. With Dark Meta Knight defeated, Sectonia began to regain some of her sentience and, realizing the damage she'd done, decided to offer herself as a sacrifice to atone for her misdeeds.
Player eliminated.
The elimination of Sectonia made Kirby and Dedede's next target obvious: Morpho Knight. Except, being essentially Dreamland's Grim Reaper, Morpho Knight had no reason to stick around once he'd done what he came for. For the moment, that is. We don't know what Morpho Knight's motives are, but we don't see him being too concerned with winning this competition.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Which brings us to the final Circle Tower. With that, the Circle Tower holds only 3 more players: Kirby, King Dedede, and Deroach. And while Deroach certainly isn't evil, the loss of his friends probably wouldn't have him in the best of moods. And there is a lot of treasure up there, after all. What's stopping Deroach from sneakily attacking King Dedede when he least expects it? Well, just the small fact that Deroach would not be able to beat Dedede, let alone Kirby.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Thank you again, Lovable, for sponsoring us today. Click the link in the description and use promo code UPBINGEYT20 to get a 20% discount on your first purchase of a pro plan.
Congratulations to our winners, Kirby and King Dedede. With that, it looks like Dreamland's 2 greatest heroes are the winners in today's Squid Game. Kirby and King Dedede have survived, but at a great cost. The trek back to their newly empty Dreamland is a tearful one, until Kirby spots a familiar glowing building in the distance. Somehow, amidst all the chaos, Kirby and Dedede completely forgot about the Dream Palace, a building where the whole gimmick is summoning Kirby's friends and foes alike, no matter how dead they seem to be beforehand.